So let's start with just the offseason at large. Some people, Jeremy, would label this offseason as a failure. I'm interested to see what you guys think, and then I will come in with my points after. But Jaclyn, let's start off with you here.
I would say it's not entirely a failure only because they extended Devers. If they hadn't done that 10-year extension with him, I would have classified this offseason as a failure solely because of the amount of people who left that also could have been traded midway through the season and gotten, some value from them. Most notably, the JD Martinez leaving and Nathan Eovaldi leaving. I think that they should have traded them in the middle of last season just to get something back from it. And then obviously with Xander leaving as well. Very sad, but I only because they extended Devers, I would say it is not a failure.
Jordan, I know obviously we have talked a lot at length in the chat about the Xander Bogaerts contract and when he left for the Padres. Interested to hear your thoughts on this. I think Jaclyn does make some good points in terms of selling off. Maybe not about Bogaerts specifically, but about a bunch of players.
Yeah, I mean, as it pertains to Bogarts, I think the issue with that is it got to the point that it did, to the point where you left yourself susceptible to losing him in free agency. I have absolutely zero gripes with them not giving him 11 years, 280 million. That's a stupid contract, and San Diego will hate that by year 3 or 4 of it because he's already regressing. He's not going to be a shortstop long term. But anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, I mean they were I think 2 games out of the wild card race at the trade deadline last year. So at the end of the day, like I understand the whole like kind of half buying, half selling kind of ordeal, but the moves they made really kind of didn't make a ton of sense. Like I liked the Tommy Pham acquisition. He didn't really pan out. Reese McGuire, I did not necessarily like, aside from getting Jake Diekman off the roster, and he ended up being awesome. They just were so banged up last year. It was really hard to kind of sustain any sort of momentum. Evaldi regressed because he was hurt. His fastball dropped to like 94 miles an hour. JD was terrible till September. Xander Bogaerts was basically 40-year-old Ichiro Suzuki from June to September. So, like, as far as this offseason is concerned, though, because of the Devers extension, and I'm going to be very generous with my grade because I'm the eternal optimist of Red Sox Twitter. So I honestly, I think it's like a solid B offseason, and that's honestly counting. Like you can't really blame them for Trevor Story getting hurt in the offseason because I mean that was something that you didn't plan on going into it. It was something that came up while he was ramping up, and that kind of threw a wrench in things. But I mean, like they lost JD, Justin Turner came in, adequate replacement. Nathan Eovaldi left. Corey Kluber's not really an adequate replacement, but if we're talking strictly, what Evaldi looked like when he left versus what Kluber looked like in Tampa Bay, that is an adequate replacement. They got to do something about shortstop, though, but then Devers' extension automatically kind of nixes losing Bogarts, in my opinion, so that's why I give it a B. And obviously, the bullpen's much better, too.
We'll definitely get to grades in terms of individual people. I know that we have some thoughts on Chaim Bloom and Red Sox ownership. I guess that's not individual people, but you get what I'm saying. This offseason pissed me off beyond belief. I was so upset with the way that things panned out. And I think it honestly would have been a little bit more palatable, interested to see what you guys think, if I hadn't heard the Danny Ainge type of rhetoric that the Red Sox were interested in like 60 different guys. They were really positive on being able to re-sign certain guys. Like, they really felt like they were, the last guys out. They were really, it was like the Celtics with Durant, we finished second. Okay, congrats. You didn't get the guy. Like, it felt like it kept happening over and over and over. And if you wanted to tell me, listen, we weren't that close. We weren't. I'm sorry. We tried. He was on our radar. We couldn't get him. I would have been like, all right, you know what? I'm mad at Chaim Bloom for not spending, or I'm mad at John Henry for not spending. This was miles more just infuriating for me to hear you just missed out on Zach Eflin. Who was the other guy? Jose Abreu, I think that they were close in on, but then...
Andrew Heaney, too.
Yeah, exactly. Just go on down the list. There were so many guys where I'm like, just get him. Just get him. It's not that hard. You're the Boston Red Sox. You print money like it's nothing. You wipe your ass with $100 bills. Just go and spend the extra $10 million, even if it's a slight overpay. I promise you.
Yeah.
The fan base will be okay with it. Yeah, they may yell at the contract later, but you got the guy. And it just felt like they just kept missing out on guys time after time after time. And that was honestly just, that was what was so frustrating to me. I couldn't stand it whatsoever.
I think the tough pill to swallow right now as a Boston sports fan in general, not just with the Red Sox, but also with the Patriots, I've seen this. We're just not that guy anymore. You know what I mean? We're just not that guy who people want to hang out with. We're not that team that people want to sign with. And that's something that's really difficult when you're a major market team. You have an incredible, insanely passionate fan base. You can't treat this team like it's the Tampa Bay Rays. You can't treat this team like it's some small market team in the middle of middle America. Like, this is Boston sports, and you have to treat it as such. And it's a tough pill to swallow when, free agents just don't want to sign here. They just don't.
And I understand that there was a whole geographical component to it. I kept hearing that. I think Heaney was from Texas. I know Eflin was from the Tampa area. We definitely talked about that at length. But, like, at a certain point, cash does talk. Just overpay if you have to. Just go and get the guy for me. I'm begging you. It's not that hard. They did make some signings. I'm not going to pretend like they didn't. Yoshida coming over from Japan. We all argued in our chat, Jordan, myself, a couple others, we should just get the all-Japanese team and just get everybody in from over there, because honestly it might be a more entertaining product at this point. The Story injury, I'm going to address quickly and say that there were problems with his elbow before he ever signed here, if I'm not mistaken. So irregardless of, I understand that they could not have predicted that he was going to get hurt. They couldn't have made him get the surgery sooner because he didn't feel the pain back then. But guess what? You knew that this was almost a ticking bomb in his elbow, that it was going to be a problem, that he was going to need surgery at some point. It was basically a guarantee. Now it's just at the worst possible time, and that just makes it hurt that much more. There's a reason the team stayed away from him in free agency 2 years ago, and you're kind of seeing why. That was what was so, again, I keep coming back to the word infuriating. I can't find a better word without swearing consistently. It's just so maddening to see all of these moves and you're that close, or something just didn't break our way. It's like, well, if enough of these happen, maybe it is a pattern. It's not just bad luck. It's not just circumstance. Maybe, you know what, you didn't do a good job, and that's kind of where I'm at this point.